Today on Larry King Now, Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos, 20 years together.
If I were young and good-looking, I don't think I could have hosted my show, because then everyone would have been competitive with me. Everyone knows I'm not cool, so I'm never a threat to anyone I talk to. The people on the show, but most of them, they're everyday people. When the show is over, they're like everybody else. So it's pretty difficult for me to honestly believe that because someone is of lower income or less education and doesn't speak the Queen's English, that that person is morally inferior.
Here's a guy who didn't feel threatened about my popularity on the show, that encouraged me to host his show. So I owe everything I have to him.
We're incredibly close, and I would do anything for Steve, and why not?
Plus, which of you takes the longest to get ready?
You!
We've never shared a room.
I've seen what they do to you.
You don't have any hair.
Exactly. I put my shirt on, I walk out on stage.
Yeah, and look what it looks like.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos. Our special guest to kick things off is one of my all-time favorites, Jerry Springer, the host of The Jerry Springer Show, now in its 24th season. And he spent the summer hosting The Price is Right in Branson, Missouri. You're incredible. Jerry is the former mayor of Cincinnati, political pundit, lawyer, Emmy Award-winning newscaster, country recording artist, and one-time ballroom dancer. He's also a catcher for the Detroit Tigers. He's done it all. He's done it all. We'll be joined later in the show by Steve Wilkos, who hosts the Steve Wilkos Show. The pair are celebrating 20 years of working together.
The only thing I don't do, I still go to envelope openings. Is that the line? Yeah.
What? The Price is Right?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I love doing first of all, to anyone else that might be an impressive array of jobs, but compared to you, when I say 24 years, for sure, next to you, that's...
For sure.
Yeah.
No one says for sure is only in cartoons.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm still reading
What, The Price is Right?
Yeah, Price is Right I do.
Do you like hosting a game show?
I love that electricity of being in front of an audience. Oftentimes, like when I was anchoring the news for 10 years, I enjoyed doing that, but it wasn't the same kind of rush at all. You're just...
I do stand-up comedy. That's the biggest gig I get, is to go on stage.
Exactly. So I love it, and that's why I do it.
Do you ever get tired of the Jerry Springer Show?
No. I mean, that's God's truth. I just don't. It's so much fun. I mean, I'm lucky.
I know you love you. Last time you were here, you said this to say, I enjoy most of the people on the show. I like them. You know what? We're all alike. We just get lucked out with a better gene or better parents. And
that's exactly true. The people on the show, most of them, there are always exceptions, but most of them, they're everyday people. When the show is over, they're like everybody else. Jerry, can we have an autograph? Stand around for pictures. What's a good restaurant to go to here in Stamford, Connecticut? It used to be Chicago. Everyone's alike. Everyone wants to be happy.
You know it's made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
Are you ever, haven't asked Maury this, Maury Povich, haven't seen him in a long time. Is he embarrassed by that? Let's open the envelope. You are the father.
Yeah, well, Maury can speak for himself.
That would drive me nuts.
I don't do that. We never do pregnancy tests on our show. Our show is a circus. I don't want to deal with anything that's serious, because it would...
Serious to them, though.
Oh, not our show. Because it's dating. I'm not saying they're not angry, but it's not life-changing. They're angry because their girlfriend's cheating on them, but tomorrow they're dating someone else. That's a circus. They want to come on. They know what it's about. They choose to air it out.
They're not actors, by the way, right?
Oh, no, the lawyers are all over that. No, they're real. So we don't, our show is a circus. We don't deal with anything serious because I don't want to deal with it. It disrespects their issue, a serious issue, if you think it can be solved in a 1-hour television show. They should go to a psychiatrist, a psychologist.
You are the father.
Of that?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to them if they want. That's Maury's show, and God bless him. There are a lot of people that think that's a way to find out, and that's how they want to do it. I wouldn't do it, and I'm not comfortable doing that.
Why has the Jerry Springer Show lasted us 24 years? Why? Do you think? Or is it hard? Are you too close to the...
Well, I can only guess. We were the first to be crazy. I mean, on a national level. There were local shows. And I think once you establish a niche, then you become the standard. And so, you know, for a while, there were other shows that tried to be crazy, you know, but we were there first. So it's just, so that's the first thing. There's no other show like ours. There are other talk shows, and they're very powerful ones. Steve has a very powerful show. Our show isn't powerful. Our show is a circus. And so because we're unique, we almost have that feel to ourselves.
Do you ever want to host a regular talk show?
Well,
like
I would love to host a political show. I mean, because my passion is politics. But, you know, I don't own a network. You know, someone has to come and say you do it, and until someone does, and I guess they won't.
We talk about racism in America. Your show is a lot about classism, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
People, there is a difference.
Yeah, I believe there is a discrimination based on class in our country, which is even evident in the language. I'll give you an example. You could go on one of the late night shows, be a celebrity, and talk about who you slept with, what happened in your marriage, this, that, and whatever it is. I'm on drugs, and, you know, I hope to get, or whatever the issue is. And you get cheered, and tonight we're going to have this movie star on, and, you know, we can't put them on enough magazine covers. It's incredible. You get the same stories on my show, and we call those people trash. And that is the discrimination, because we assume that if you are not wealthy or good-looking or famous, that somehow then you don't get a free pass. It's the same behavior. If you just read the script and took out the bad language, but just read the script of the story, you wouldn't be able to know, if you didn't see the names, who was the celebrity and who was just the guest on my show. The stories are the same. Open any newspaper in America today on any given day, and by the time you get to page 3, I've got 20 shows. And they're all famous people. They're celebrities, from presidents on down. So it's pretty difficult for me to honestly believe that because someone is of lower income or less education and doesn't speak the Queen's English, that that person is morally inferior.
Steve Wilkos in a little while. Coming up next with Jerry Springer, we'll talk about Joan Rivers and the Ray Rice situation right after this. We're back with Jerry Springer. We both lost a dear friend, Joan Rivers.
Yeah. I mean,
81, and we're still shocked.
Yeah. And it's because she was so alive the day before she went in. Yeah. The moment before she went in to have the procedure. You know, it's not like, well, she wasn't failing health or anything like that. Just, and those of us who are old enough to remember, you know, now we don't think about it if there's a female comedian. In fact, you know, back in her time, they called her a comedienne. Yeah. You know, now there's a woman that's a comedian. Yeah, women just as funny. You know, half the comics are. What a trailblazer, and just so irreverent, and yet so honest. She said what we're kind of thinking, but Mom told us not to say, you know. And she did it most often without using dirty language.
She never said curse.
Yes.
You both appeal to younger people. Both shows, her Fashion Police, are younger people. How do you stay relevant with the young?
Well, I can't. If I were trying to analyze myself, which is, I don't know how you do that, I think it's the same way with my own daughter. I really am not judgmental. And so I think there's a comfort level that you can tell me anything, and I'm not going to have my finger in your face.
Me too.
And yeah, and it's that. And well, it's the magic of how you've lasted all these years. It's that, who isn't going to talk to Larry? You know, I mean, I didn't care what was going on in my life. I could always come on your show, and I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to give me my say. If I were young and good-looking, I don't think I could have hosted my show, because then everyone would have been competitive with me. All the kids in the audience would say, well, I'm better looking than that guy is. Who does he think he is? He thinks he's so cool. Well, everyone knows I'm not cool, so I'm never a threat to anyone I talk to. They're always going to be stronger than me, better looking than me, whatever. So It's comfortable, and
Every man.
I think that's the reason it works.
Let's take some current events. What do you make of this whole Ray Rice thing?
Well, the obvious, there's only one side to the issue in terms of what happened. Of course, it's horrible. I had another thought to it, and that is there's suddenly this public outrage, and it should be. But have we not realized that there are millions of men that go around beating their significant others quite often? We can't imagine, most men can't imagine, going to sleep at night, and I haven't spent 1 second of my life ever thinking, gosh, I hope my wife isn't going to be drunk or come and beat me or whatever. We don't even think about it. It's not on our radar screen. Right. And yet a woman, millions of women have to go to bed every night. Is this the night that my husband loses his temper? Is this the night he's going to slap me? Is this the night he's so drunk, comes home so drunk that, the fear. Now, did we not know this was going on in American society like forever? Now suddenly, and here's one more thing. Here's what the similar example is. In 1962, I remember sitting in my living room at home with our black and white television, and suddenly that night, on the air, was Sheriff Bull Connors hosing down little black children who were trying to go to the first grade. And I remember all of us at home went, oh, God. America saw that video. We had always had, slavery, discrimination, racism, separate water fountains, bad language about African Americans, all of this. But we started to really move on the civil rights movement, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, when for the first time, even up north, we saw it on television. And then when we saw the film, when we saw that it's real, we couldn't deny it anymore. And the better nature that we all have as human beings, most of us, said, you know what, even though I am conservative or whatever, even though I'm a right, this is wrong. And America, reluctantly at first, moved on civil rights. It's the same thing with this issue. They're saying, why did it take us to see that video of him in the elevator? No one can deny having seen that video. Oh my God, that really is brutal. To move the masses, because there's so many things going on in everyday life, to move the masses, I think sometimes you need it. Pay attention, here it is.
All right, what do you think of ISIS and where we're going with that? Another area of the world.
Well, I really like what the president said, and I think that is clearly what we have to do. Now, here's the part that annoys me. It's like you watch these cable news stations, and as soon as the president finishes his speech, I get the feeling, this is just a feeling I get, that there are some commentators and some of those networks that honestly, I mean, I know in the end they're rooting for America, but when you beat up the president every single day, just let's find this word that, or he's not sincere. He doesn't like his job.
Democracy is compromise. These people are virulent. They're just...
It's unbelievable. It's like you're wishing him evil. They would be happy if he fails. They would be happy. But wait a second, he's our president. Why aren't we all saying, go, Mr. President, I hope it works. There's no guarantee, but I hope it works. And, and do we really think he doesn't think about that issue all day? Do we really think that those people don't sit around in the National Security Council and, all his advisors, and they are getting the intelligence, and they've been thinking about this every day? Do you know that the first hour of the president's day, after he gets out of the bathroom and has breakfast, is he gets the hour briefing on what's going on around the world? He's on this issue every single day. And we have these commentators that just want to pick on the president and say, see, he'd rather play golf. He doesn't care. Really? President Obama doesn't care if Americans get killed? What? I mean, that is just so stupid. It's hard for me to watch and believe that they're sincere, that they want what is best for America. That's not sincerity.
Well said. He's no Springer chicken in the TV business. I really said that. Up next, Jerry is joined by his longtime colleague and partner in crime, Steve Wilkos. We'll be right back. We now welcome Steve Wilkos to the show. Jerry and Steve have been working together for 2 decades. In fact, Steve was a cop in Chicago. I want to quote something that Jerry said to me a few months ago. I asked him about you. He said, it's like Oprah giving birth to Dr. Phil. I gave birth to Steve. It was a C-section. It was painful.
I got torn out.
I begat Steve. Yeah.
What did you do for Jerry?
The whole thing is, I came to work for the Jerry Springer Show for one day. I was a Chicago policeman, and they said they needed, they were doing a Ku Klux Klan show, and they wanted some policemen in the audience to make sure things didn't get out of hand. And I think about that one day changing my life completely. Because I ended up staying on the show. I met my wife on the show and had my kids and everything, all because of that one day of working on the Jerry Springer Show.
Was your wife a guest?
She was a producer. She worked on Jerry's show, and we met and we're friends. And she now is Jerry's executive producer, and she's also my executive producer.
She produces my show.
And your job on his show as a bouncer?
I was the security guy. And then Jerry traveled. His show obviously became extremely popular. And so Jerry was traveling all over, and he asked me to travel with him. So for me, being a cop and not making a lot of money, to be able to travel with Jerry and go places and do things that I never would have done in my life, it was a very exciting time in my life.
Miss being a cop?
No, not at all.
No.
My dad did it for 30 years, and I did it for 12, and I'm like, I don't know if I could have done anything more.
Did you ever think you'd host the show?
No.
How did that happen?
Well, Steve, it was clear pretty early on, because we get a lot of mail and now it's emails and stuff like that, that Steve was getting his own following. The young, I was the old guy, but the young women, they were, they all was screaming Steve, and so, he's not so good looking anymore, but no, but he was. I
got old along with you.
No, but so he became very popular, and having security on our show, because it's such a crazy show, became a significant part of the show, and Steve was there, and also I was even contemplating going back into politics full time and stuff like that, so it was an obvious transition.
How do you like hosting?
I love having my own show. Because, like anybody, I went to work every day, and Jerry was the host, and I sat in the front row, and I would want to say something the way I would want to say it. And so now that I have my own show, I get to say what I want to say, and I can express myself. So I love being on the Springer Show because it felt like I was in high school, running around with my friends, pulling each other's pants down. I mean, that's the kind of show it was. But I love doing my show. I love having my show. I love with the people that I deal with.
The difference on your show is you get critical of your guests.
I do.
You get involved differently than you.
Yeah, Steve's is a serious show.
You are involved.
Yes. Well, I deal with my show the same way I did when I was a patrol officer in Chicago. People say you can't solve a problem in an hour, and it's true. You really can't change anybody's life in an hour, but just like a cop, and you get a call, you can't spend all day there trying to work that purpose, but you get 15 minutes, you try to do the best you can, resolve the situation now, and then you move on. You try to give some advice and some guidance, or remove the person that's causing a problem. And that's basically what we're doing with our show. We're doing what Patrolman does.
The show is great to watch, though.
Thank you.
Do you ever, let's discuss something nationally. What do you make, both of you, of this militarization of the police? Ferguson, Missouri, I see tanks.
Yeah, I think it's a bit overboard. I think obviously police departments, and then I'm obviously very pro-police, but I don't think when you're crossing the line into the military, I think that's why you have the Guard, National Guard, when situations like that arise. I don't think as policemen, you're just patrolling your neighborhood.
That makes it antagonistic.
Yes.
Like you don't like the people.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's one of these things happen in the world that are based on unintended consequences. Police departments got built up after 9/11 because of the fear of terrorism. Every local community wanted to beef up, and so police got ever more powerful guns. They got ever more powerful armor, more protective equipment, and all that. And no one, any politician in any community would say no to a request to build up the police department. So now the police have all this equipment, have all this. So when there's trouble, it's not like there's necessarily a great board meeting about what to do. It's that this is what you have on hand. Well, the crowd looks a little bigger than I thought, and they're not thinking it through. Let's send in a tank if we have a tank.
Did you ever have to kill anyone?
No, I was fortunate. I never wanted to kill anybody. I certainly am glad that I never
Did you draw your gun much?
I was in a shootout once, and it was very terrifying, and I was glad I was only in one. And my son asked me about it all the time, and I said I was curled up within the wheel well of a car, and I was shooting over my head, and I was scared to death.
Jerry and Steve will answer your questions after a break, plus we'll play a game of If You Only Knew, the newlywed version. That's next. We're back with Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos, Siamese twins, attached at the hip.
Lori and Dory.
Some social media questions on Facebook. Zihad Bilhal asks, Jerry, are the guests on your show truly that crazy?
Well, they're not crazy, but they are that intent about something that is going on in their life right then. So they're not crazy. They're just really angry. And their language, I'll answer it this way. A college English professor at Harvard comes home one night and finds his wife in bed with a next-door neighbor. That English professor at Harvard would not say, "Forsooth, my dear, what is it that I have found?" He would use the exact same language,
Correct.
throw the furniture, act the exact same way.
TW Collier 93 on Twitter. What was the best fight you ever involved in on Jerry's show?
Oh, that was easy. I didn't evaluate the situation correctly. We had two little guys, and the producers didn't tell me they were both all-state wrestlers from Kentucky. But they were state champion wrestlers, both of these guys. And they were fighting over one guy's girlfriend. And so I'm like, two little guys, no problem. They threw me and my security guys around like rag dolls. And I was like,
what did you think of that?
I'd probably laugh.
At HG Productions tweets, if you two were to be in a Batman TV show, which characters would you play?
Well, I obviously would be Batman.
I guess I'm Robin.
At Larry
Or
Brown
I'd be the Joker.
At Larry Brown on Facebook, is it difficult to not look at your guests, both of you, and ever say, what the is going on here?
I do it almost every show. So I say it. I go, what the? Because I'm amazed, and as Jerry pointed out earlier, I'm very fortunate. My parents are still married. They're married 55 years. If my dad tells me something today, I still listen to my dad, you know. So I'm very fortunate that they made me go through school and made sure that, you know, I kept out of trouble. Where a lot of my guests, they live these crazy lives where they're not taking care of their children, they're not involved, and I say, what the heck are you doing? You know, so I do say it on the stage.
I have a little bit of that feeling, but it's not because of the show. In other words, there's nothing, as I said before, that happens on our show that I can't read about in a newspaper every single day. So, yes, there are people with unfortunate lives, and I think on the larger issue is, how can we make life better for people? But I don't see it as an individual issue.
Shannon A. House, Facebook. What surprised or shocked you the most?
Of any particular show? Well, the guy who married his horse.
Yeah, I always said I would do it.
Yeah. But the horse left him because we did a follow-up show.
At CW Bridge on Twitter, it's nice to see you guys are still good friends.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, we've known each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
My wife, my wife runs this show. She runs mine.
I got it.
Jerry's been, I mean, here's a guy who didn't feel threatened about my popularity on the show, that encouraged me to host his show. So I owe everything I have to him, and Jerry's always been great. And
we're incredibly close, and I would do anything for Steve, and why not?
We'll play a little newlyweds game, as if you two.
I'm not going to marry him. No.
No, but what you know about impressions.
Yes.
Steve, what was your first impression of Jerry?
I liked, you know what? Honestly, I liked him because he liked baseball. That's the first thing we ever talked about with each other.
You a Cub fan?
Yes, I am.
I like professional baseball.
Anyone can have a bad century. What was your first impression of Steve?
He seemed to be a combination of the manliness I never had, and yet was really a funny guy. In other words, he was a real macho guy. And let's face it.
You're not a macho guy.
No, I would do the kids' homework so they'd stay friendly with me and stuff like that. So to be able to hang around with, and truthfully, the guys I hang around with now on my show, they're all the security guys, the cops. I mean, it's kind of neat to have.
Nice friends.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that wishes I had been like that when I was younger.
Steve, what's a food Jerry can't stand?
I've seen him eat everything, so I mean.
I hate eggs.
You hate
Really?
eggs? I love eggs. I eat eggs every morning.
No yolk?
Oh, God.
Still got it. Still got it.
Steve, if Jerry were a superhero, which one would he be?
Oh, God. SpongeBob?
What would he be as a superhero?
Oh, well,
I like to think of myself as Captain America.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good one.
Steve, what's Jerry's best quality?
I always say this about Jerry. He was a great mentor to me. He's the most well-mannered man I've ever met in my life. Impeccable manners, just the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
And loyal.
And loyal.
What's his best quality?
Well, loyalty and just a good male friend who loves his family. But I mean, everyone says they love their family, but he would die for them.
Which of you takes the longest to get ready?
Who knows?
You!
We've never shared a room.
I've seen what they do to you.
You don't have any hair.
Exactly. I put my shirt on, I walk out on stage.
Yeah, and look what it looks like.
What's the best advice he ever gave you?
Be myself.
That's the best thing you can do.
That
Anyone
is true.
in town.
I do remember that.
The only secret in this business, there's no secret.
It's authenticity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did Steve ever give you advice?
Duck.
Yeah, Doug usually.
When
Or
it
get
gets
off the
crazy,
stage.
get off the stage.
Yeah.
and
What's
run.
something people don't know about Jerry?
You know what? I think over the years, people have got the impression that Jerry is somehow like the show, like he's crazy or he's this or he's that. And I tell people, I go, he's the nicest guy in the world.
And one of the brightest.
Yes.
What is something people don't know about Steve?
There's
Super fast.
No, that because he's a tough cop. There is a soft heart in there. I mean, there really is. He can be as emotional as anybody.
I might add, he has the most beautiful blue eyes ever.
Well, you're gay.
No, I'm not gay.
You kissed Marlon Brando, for God's
He
sake.
kissed me.
He
The
kissed
nicest
you,
blue
yeah.
eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, well,
Frank Sinatra and Adlai Stevenson, former
Yes.
governor of Illinois.
Well, he looks like...
I'm in Sinatra's company. That's
Yes.
pretty good.
But the eyes...
Now you are.
You're close to... You're close. You have...
Hey, I take
you
that as
must
a
have heard
compliment.
that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, well, he looks like Cal Ripken if he had hair, the baseball player.
Yeah, he
I
does.
get that all the
I knew
time.
Cal well.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Honestly, every time we're with you, it's an honor.
Thank you
Steve,
so
great
much.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks
You're
to our
Larry
guests,
King.
Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos. Tune in to the Jerry Springer Show and the Steve Wilkos Show weekdays. And don't forget, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things and Instagram at Larry King Now. We'll see you next time.